What's going on, good people? Welcome back to another episode of Trading My Funded Account. Today is Valentine's Day 2024. We made some trades today, so let's go ahead and get into it. So trade one, I went long here expecting for momentum to push prices back up into the range. So trade one is right here. So if you notice, during the pre-market hours, we were trading in a zone between 470 and 420, and we were really just bouncing back and forth throughout that entire range. Now once the market opened, we shot back to the top of that range and immediately dropped back all the way down to the bottom. I didn't go long when we initially came into this level right here because I assumed that more than likely, if the seller momentum was this strong coming into that level, it'll probably keep moving past that level. So I said, okay, let me wait for the momentum to come back, push back up to the upside, and break back into the zone. Now, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but I would say that on this trade, I was a little bit too anxious. I tried to anticipate the market rather than reacting to what was already there. You see, I was expecting for the market to push past this level and then just keep going back up, eventually making its way to the top of the range that we were just talking about. But what I should do the next time is wait for a little bit more confirmation. If I want to trade this type of setup, I need to wait for prices to break above this level of support and then come back and make a higher low. And then once I see that higher low, I have the green light to go long and take it all the way back up if I need to. But I have to wait for that confirmation. That's the key. You don't want to really get in front of the market before your setup is formed. So always remember to let your setups completely form. That's very important. So on trade number two, I pretty much went short based off of me expecting for this lower high right here to get respected. Because I saw that the trend was down. I saw that we had already made a lower high that pushed us out of that range that we were trading in during the pre-market. So I said, okay, if this is the next lower high, more than likely prices should come back, retest that level, and the downtrend should see some type of continuation from there. So that's the main reason that I went short right here at trade two. And initially I did get that drop that I was looking for, but that drop only lasted for that one candle that I got in on, and then prices came back up to break even, and that's where my position was closed out at. So I would say, even though the results were break even, I think this trade was a little risky, not because I shorted from a lower high, but because I shorted against all of this buying momentum that was coming in. We came back and made a low for the day, made one of the highest volume candles that got printed since the market opened at 9:30. That was this candle right here, the second highest, right? And then we had all of these wicks down here, 3 wicks in a row, and then we finally pushed back up with very strong candles to the upside. So it's like, okay, even though you might want to get into the short from that level, you got to respect the momentum. The same way over here at trade number one, where I declined to go long at first because I saw the selling momentum. If I didn't jump in front of the selling momentum to go long, then over here, even though it looks good, I shouldn't jump in front of the buying momentum if I want to go short. Always wait for that momentum to fizzle out, because the thing about momentum is that if you trade against it, you don't know how far that momentum could go before the market decides that it's done. It could keep going up for the rest of the day, and you would have to take that loss if you got into that trade. So don't trade against momentum, and instead just wait for that momentum to fizzle out. And that's pretty much what led me to trade number three, because notice how I talked about momentum, right? Look at how momentum carried prices all the way back up to the top of the zone. So this was zone number, well, this was the range number one from the pre-market. And then once prices broke down into these prices down below, we established a new trading range. So once prices came back up into the top of this new trading range, notice how they tested it for a while. They tested it once, twice, and 3 times, and were rejected on all 3 occasions. So once I saw a lower high get formed right here, I was like, okay, cool. Let me short this from the same price that I was trying to short from before, because now, see, the momentum has fizzled out. Prices have broken back down below that level that I was trying to get into at trade number two. So now the market is actually moving in conjunction with the type of trade that I'm trying to take. So therefore, that increases the probabilities of the trade going in my favor. And that's why I took trade three right there. And then I just went short here and took it back down to the lows of the range that we were trading in at that time. All right, so we traded in the range for a good little minute, and that brought us to trade number four. So once I identified that the range was solid and that it was holding up, I was like, okay, if we get a bounce off the lows of this range and then we break back above this higher low right here, that's where I want to go long. So that's pretty much what I did on trade 4. I saw the bounce off the lows from the zone, and then I saw a break above this prior higher low support level. So I went long, but I got out and I cut the trade because I saw this lower high right here. I was like, I'm just not quite sure if prices are going to move up from here, or if they'll come back, retest the lows of this zone one more time, and then move back up to the upside. So I said, you know what? While I'm still in relatively good territory, let me just cut the trade right now, because I would hate for me to be able to identify that prices can move down, but then don't get out of the trade. And then I take that loss and say, dang, I knew I should have got out. So I just decided, you know what? Let me get out while I still can. Now, prices never actually moved to the downside. So that right there was something that gave me confirmation and said, okay, I expected the selling to come in because of this lower high. But even with the lower high being printed on the chart, the participants in the market still didn't want to push the market down, back down to lower prices. So I said, okay, that's very bullish. You combine that with the fact that we just bounced off the lows of the zone, broke above the higher low. That means that the trade that I took on 4 was legit. So I re-entered that trade again at trade 5. And I was looking to take it back up all the way to the top of this trading range that we were in. But I saw that prices had kind of stalled out right here on this candle before, right before I got out. And I was like, I feel like it could come back to the top of the zone, but I'm not sure. So let me just give it like maybe 15 to 30 seconds. And then I counted in my head. When that time period was up, I just closed out the trade because I figured, okay, this is the top of the swing so far since we've bounced off the lows of the zone. What's wrong with taking profit right here? You might as well, right? It makes sense. You look to the left, it's levels on the chart that say, okay, prices have had a hard time getting past here before. So more than likely, they might do that again. So if I have profits and this came to that key level, let me just get out. That's one of the biggest lessons I learned from yesterday and Monday. So I implemented that today and was able to be successful on trade 5. Now, we see prices come back to that higher low one more time. And this is what actually led to prices breaking up past that second range that we made. And they broke back into the first range that we made during the pre-market hours. So once we were in that range, I thought about going long once we broke back into it. But I remember what went wrong on trade 1. And I was like, you know what? Let me wait for that higher low like I know that I should. I never got that higher low until prices got further up into the range, but that was cool because if you notice at trade 6, the higher low that got made, it got made at the same support level that a higher low was made on during the pre-market in the middle of the zone a little bit earlier. So I'm like, okay, anytime you have a higher low that gets made on the same level of support that a previous higher low was made on, especially if they're far apart in terms of time, like this first higher low occurred right before the market opened. So let's say 9:25. And this one occurred at around 10:25. So a whole hour occurred between those two time periods, which makes the higher low that got established this time much more significant because prices could have easily just forgot about that level. But they came back to that level and made another higher low. So it's like, okay, if you didn't believe in that higher low support level the first time, you definitely got to believe in it now. So this is pretty much the confirmation that I needed in order to start looking for the long trades. Now, the thing about trade 6 was that I got in before this higher low got made. So this trade on trade 6 was more of an anticipation trade, kind of like trade number 1 was, where I saw prices break above that level and I just got excited and said, oh, it's moving up to the top of the level and it's going to move without me, so let me get in. But more than likely, prices are always going to pull back and come back to that level that you know you should have got in at. So it pays to just be patient because I had to take a loss on 6. That was really kind of unnecessary, and that ate into my profits a little bit on trade 7. Now, on trade 7, I saw that prices made that higher low. So once they broke back above the same price that I got in at trade number 6, I went long again. Now, the only difference this time was that there was a higher low that was formed below at that key level of support. So that pretty much gave me the confirmation that I needed to go ahead and take that trade. And then once I went long right there, I just took it back up to the top of the range. I tried to hold it a little bit to see if it would go like all the way to the top of the top. But when I saw these wicks up here and saw prices starting to fizzle out a little bit, I said, you know what? Let me just take the profit that I have because prices are at a key level. It makes sense to get out right here. Remember what I talked about from yesterday? That was the biggest lessons I learned, one of them. So I decided that today I'm just going to take the profits that I have and be happy with that. And after trade 7, I decided to call it a day. I finished the day in decent profitable territory. And I feel like overall I made some decent trades. I would say that all of these trades that I took, they all aligned with my trading plan. Now the execution on trades 1 and trade 6, that's where I need a little bit of work, because on those 2 trades right there, I saw what I was expecting to happen, but I got in a little bit too early, trying to anticipate the market rather than letting the market come to me. You don't want to chase it. Let your trades come to you, and then they give you a better chance of working, because you're like, oh, okay, it came into a major level. If it doesn't work from here, then I'm okay with being wrong. So I need to clean that up. Just work on making sure that you don't anticipate. When you're in the market, I need to react, plain and simple. So I feel like if I can get that right, I can continue to have winning days like this and continue down the road to success. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in with me today. I hope you learned a lot about not anticipating your trades and making sure that you wait for the market to come to you rather than chasing it. And I'll be back tomorrow on February 15th, 2024, ready to do it one more time. But until then, you guys, have a good one, study hard, and take it easy.